that I know says I gotta go solo, but I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't wanna fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of. The life inside this man, I've been born again.
Yes, as you can see, Dave is wearing his early onset dementia T-shirt today.
Sucking my gut while I do this. I designed this one with the help of a legislative leader,
Really?
a committee chairman. He said, you got to do the D.C. Captain America shield with it.
Okay.
And it says, Veterans for Cannabis Medicine. Now, I'm not a veteran. I'm wearing this in honor of my father, who was and had PTSD, which led to him being on tranquilizers my entire childhood.
Was he a cannabis user also?
No, it was illegal.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't.
No, when you're a veteran with panic attacks, with flashbacks, with anxiety issues, too high strung and all that, the VA will just continuously dope you up,
right?
And they'll consider you fixed, right? But you're basically, disabled from the tranquilizers. And whereas the cannabis medicine, and a young veteran with severe mental health issues told me, he took out a gallon-sized bag, 900 pills. He said, the VA gives me this each month, 900 pills, because it's very complex. And then he says, now, I don't take any of that anymore. He reached in for a little vape pen, like an e-cigarette. He says, this is 1 gram of THC. And it's on an acute treatment when he says, I feel a panic attack coming on. I could even be driving. I'll pull over, take one breath of that, and I just sit there for a half hour, and it's gone. And
there you go, people.
And he says that 1 gram lasts him on average a whole month.
There you go. See, who knew? Easy Rider was right all along.
Yeah,
living
healthy.
If they had just listened to watch Easy Rider and followed it, we would have saved a lot of trouble and a lot of homelessness throughout all of the age.
Yeah, don't tell Steve Kunzweiler. He still believes in reefer madness. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
And now I say this, Eddie, because they're signing petitions right now to redo the 788.
Well, I think they should.
Yeah, it's got to be redone the right way. Because, Chip Paul, which we should have him in, he wrote that. He's like you and me, a big Trump supporter. But he's a liberty guy, and he really believes there's value in this. And so they're working on that. So that's one of the issues coming up this
Does he believe it should be rewritten?
Oh, yeah, he helped rewrite it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because essentially, like I always said, there's two people who were in favor of legalizing. It used to be medical marijuana, but basically what they did, they just legalized marijuana. So to me, there are two people who really pushed for this.
Yeah.
Those who want to use marijuana and those who want to make money from those who use the marijuana. And that's who is really...
Yeah.
And I think it's devastating. And not just, I'm not talking about the crime aspect or any of that. I think financially it is devastating people because there are people who get their checks. It used to be the casinos. People would get their money, get a paycheck, run to the casinos, gamble it away, and then they don't have anything. They wouldn't. Before that, they wouldn't feed their children. They would take.
Leaving one out, Eddie.
What's
the
that?
Liquor stores.
Well,
Eddie.
okay.
Come on.
Yeah, but it wasn't to the extent of the gambling.
Oh no, alcohol addiction is a far greater scourge.
I beg to differ because the casinos. Because I'm just telling you, if you go to the casino, and I know the people. I mean, I know people who have just it's devastated.
Oh, yeah.
The addiction to gambling, it's crazy. In fact, a friend of ours, one of their relatives was murdered. In fact, it was just on one of these AMC shows, crime show. They just showed where she was murdered by her husband, who got into all these gambling debts.
Right.
They moved to Texas,
right,
and then he would come up to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And gamble, and he gambled all of the money away and he had a big winning, but squandered it all,
Sure.
lost it all,
Yeah.
and got so into debt, and then finally he murdered his wife and so forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, the devastation that the gambling, the alcohol, of course, that's been around forever, and then now you add to that the marijuana. It's just crazy. And now I think in Canada, which is probably a precursor to America, they've actually legalized, to an extent, fentanyl use. It's gotten that bad. So I don't know if you're in favor of legalizing fentanyl. But see, that's the thing. It's the old camel's nose under the tent thing, and I know you'll probably poo-poo it, just like they always poo-poo marijuana as a gateway drug. And see, I spoke at, I think I told you I spoke at Owasso. See, that's why I have a problem. You never used it. I actually used.
Oh, in high school I dabbled.
I used marijuana. I moved into LSD, psilocybin, mescaline, et cetera, cocaine. So, fortunately, my thing was needles. Anything. If you could drink it, eat it, snort it, smell it, whatever, I was good. If it had to go into my arm, no.
That's why you have the nurse give the testosterone shots. You won't do your own.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I did have to give some in my, for my Lovenox. It's for the blood thinner.
Yeah.
I did have to do it to myself. But, no, I just would never stick a needle. And I watch people do it. But what I'm saying is, because I've seen the devastation of drug addiction, and I've seen what gambling can do to people. I've been fortunate. My dad, for example, when I grew up, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, hearing dishes and pots being thrown around at my mother because my dad would have lost his entire paycheck when he was in the Army. He'd come home and he gambled away the monthly paycheck.
Yep.
So I saw what that did.
Oh, it's hell. Yeah.
And then, so I know how bad gambling is. I was against the gambling, and I saw what that was going to do. I stood against that.
Yeah.
And then I personally have seen and believe that the marijuana law that was passed was more of a detriment than a benefit. And I still believe that. So, basically our conversation is, I understand that there are people who may and will benefit from the use of the true, honest medical use of marijuana.
Just like codeine, right?
Right.
It has a proper use.
But the problem is there are too many loopholes that have been allowed in Colorado, California, Oklahoma, every state that has allowed it. The legislature has smelled the money. And how do we back up from that? That's what my fear is. How do we now, after all of the revenue that has come in, and what usually precedes revenue? Expenditure.
Okay.
So, have we already outspent the revenue? Have we already outspent the income coming in from the marijuana?
Yeah.
Taxes, right?
Well,
and are we now at the point where we're going to put the state in the hole financially because we're going to tighten it up and say we're no longer going to allow the freedom of
that you already said. Fortunately, this legislature, the last 3-4 years, actually left that money sitting there for long. They did not even appropriate the money to enforce the laws to make sure that all these establishments were doing it legally. And now we got a problem because they've left it go. So fortunately, we've avoided that. We didn't spend the money years in advance. Now, I'm just telling you what's happening, because I've been over there every year.
Okay.
So here's the other thing I want to say.
I will take your word for it.
Okay. What I do want to say is, Eddie, as somebody, you know me, teetotaler, haven't touched liquor since I was a teenager.
I believe you. No,
haven't touched marijuana since. I've never been in a casino, okay? So you're telling somebody who voluntarily abstains from all of the above. If it were a medicine prescribed to me, if the doctor convinced me it was going to help me, I would do it, okay? So I believe that marijuana should be regulated sensibly, just like liquor should be regulated sensibly, just like casinos should be regulated sensibly. Our question is, what's going to be the effective way? Is it education? Is it tough statutory crimes? Is it a mixture? You know, because prohibition was a national experiment that they threw in the towel on. Should we revisit that? Because if you're for prohibition of liquor, I at least respect you as being intellectually consistent.
Well, the way I look at it is this, okay. Smoking has greatly decreased.
Smoking tobacco.
Tobacco.
Okay, yeah.
How did that happen?
Regulation and education.
Okay. So, I believe alcohol, the same thing can be done with that. I believe that can be handled and managed in the same way. That people can drink responsibly and be taught at a younger age that you drink responsibly. What I see with marijuana, it's going the other way, and the reason it's going the other way is because it is so lucrative. It is such a lucrative thing that I don't see a real push to hinder it. In other words, I don't see the push to try to diminish the free use of marijuana as opposed to the... See, to me, I never saw a problem with the way it was that you go to a doctor, have a doctor prescribe you. In other words, if I have a true medical need for marijuana, like I need codeine, as you say, or whatever, okay, we've all of a sudden, you can't get oxycodone anymore.
They've gone too far.
They pulled hydrocodone off the, right?
Yeah.
You know, I used to be able to get the hydrocodone off the... And now, no, I'm sorry, we can't give you that anymore.
Right.
You have to take Tylenol. Yeah.
Right.
And so, but now all of a sudden, I can get marijuana. I could go tomorrow to my doctor, maybe not my doctor, but I could find a doctor
Telemed,
to write me.
You can get that tonight.
Yeah.
At least get the paperwork done tonight.
Right. And then I can get my 12 plants to grow at home.
Sure.
Right? So something is wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I'm just saying. So the legislature, somebody smelled money, and they went for that. Yeah. They should have just said medical marijuana. If you truly are saying, because that's how we were sold the bill of goods. That's how honestly, if you'll be honest, people voted for this because it was a medical marijuana bill, and it was sold as a medical marijuana bill. It was not sold as a free open marijuana bill. Right. So if it was a medical marijuana bill, it should have been under a medical marijuana need.
Right.
So I go to my doctor, I tell him, look, I've got migraines, I've got this, I've got PTSD, you name it, whatever it is, I really need this, I'm evaluated, sure. Boom, you go to a pharmacy, they prescribe you your marijuana, you get your marijuana. But no, what we've done, we've just basically unlocked the cabinet. Sure, here you go. You go grow your own, get it here. And so that's my problem. And I think now it's putting the genie back in the bottle.
Now, I've got to take that bite size here and tell you.
Okay.
It actually, the author, Chip Paul, wrote it so he says a 7% tax it'll be subject to. It's the scandalous people down at the Oakland Tax Commission that wiggled through. Says, they didn't say whether it was excise or sales tax, so we're going to just declare it an excise tax, which means it's also subject to full sales tax. So it was the state that took something that was supposed to be 7% and not much of an incentive to be a revenue thing, and they more than doubled it. So that was our state with sleight of hand, and this petition that's going out that Chip Paul's part of is actually moving it back to maybe less than 7% if it's medical. And then he wants to bring in some more sensible language on what is truly medical. Now, I'm not going to get into that part. Chip can talk about it. But I just want to say that it wasn't the people writing Chip Paul's thing that tried to create that incentive.
Yeah, I don't care who did it.
Okay, but
you're getting off in the weeds.
No, but here's the other thing I have to answer. It actually has far exceeded the amount of licenses, the amount of growers, and it's turned into about 5 times the revenue that the people presenting the idea thought it was.
Sure, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that now, once it's done that, everybody says, oh, whoa, hey, even some of those people who may have had questions may say, and of course, you know where the real deal is, the education establishment.
Yeah, they get a little bit of it.
Think of the children. We've got education. Now we can ask for more money for teachers. So now all of a sudden, if you pull some of that back, wait a minute. Now we're hurting our teachers, which we're not really hurting teachers. We're hurting what? Our children. And so we're going to use the children as an excuse. So that's why I'm saying the hard part is putting everything back in the package and try to get everybody to, whoa, wait a minute, we've gone too far, bring it back. It's always hard to do that. And that's why I was so upset when it originally was passed, because I could see it coming. I could see it coming a mile away, and we never...
It might become as big a problem as alcohol has been for decades.
Yeah, exactly. I think that same thing happened with Prohibition. I think there never should have been Prohibition, but once we did Prohibition, they went too far again the other way, and just say, all right, drink to your heart's content. I mean, basically, that's what
everywhere but Oklahoma. We kept Prohibition till '59, Eddie.
Well, in Texas, you had to have your. When I went to Lubbock at Texas Tech, they had the loop.
Yeah.
So you had to drive outside the county.
Oh, they had county option.
Right. You had to go outside, or you join. This was a funny one. You had to join a club.
Yes.
If you joined so everybody belonged to a club.
Then you could have open bottles.
Then you could go into a club and get your drinking stuff.
Yeah. See, stupid. All of that.
Stupid stuff like that. Which is just silly.
Yeah.
And it's like sin. I've always thought of this. It's sin, and it's like Baptists and dancing.
Okay.
And this came up. The reality came to me when I went to Uganda, right?
Yeah.
And I meet these kids, and we used to speak in schools. We would get to speak in schools as missionaries.
Yeah.
Didn't have a problem with church and state there. And so these kids, after we would have question and answers, Sir, we are told we're not to dance, or we're not to drink. But in Europe, we understand that the Christians dance and they drink alcohol.
Yeah.
So why is it not sin there and it's sin here? And so I remember asking, I said, well, let me ask you a question. Can you drink without getting drunk? If you dance, can you dance without lusting? And the kids would go, well, you just told me that you can't. And so then according to you, it's sin.
Yeah.
If you can do it without lusting, without getting drunk, there's no sin.
Yeah.
Bible says it's not sin. So, and this is what happened. I always like to go back to Genesis, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. In the garden, God told Adam what? Do not eat the fruit
of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil,
or you will die.
Mm-hmm.
When the snake talked to Eve and asked her, what did God say? What did Eve say?
He said, we're told we're not supposed to touch it. And then he said, when you do, you'll be like God.
Right, but see, you missed something.
Yeah, I know I did. I'm sorry. What did I miss?
God told Adam, don't eat it. Eve told,
don't touch
it.
Yeah.
So where did she get touched from?
Yeah.
Adam told her, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Because he thought if you touch it, if I tell her don't touch it, she won't eat it.
Oh, yeah.
He threw that extra step in there thinking, I'm going to keep her from touching it.
Classic fundamentalist evangelical Christian. We add to the Word of God and then criticize when the liberal churches take away from the Word of God.
Right, exactly. And you know what? I don't think we're recording on here. It's all right. We have it on there. We'll try.
We do. Let's hit record in progress.
Yes. Okay.
You on Facebook? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're my witness. to what Eddie said so far.
Hopefully, I've been yelling loudly enough for you to pick it up for us to get it on to it. Oh. Okay. So, to repeat, so basically God told Adam, do not eat the fruit. Mm-hmm. But Adam tells Eve, don't touch the fruit because he's afraid if she touches it, she'll be tempted to eat it.
Yeah.
And so we have done that all down the line. So what do we tell kids? We tell kids, don't dance so you don't lust. And if you don't lust, you won't have sex. Okay? We tell kids, don't drink so you don't get drunk. And so where Paul, in the Bible, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say don't drink. It says just don't get drunk with wine.
Right.
They would drink the wine. In Europe, they drink at 16.
Yeah.
I was 4 years old. My uncle, even in my older adult life, I would go see my uncle, and he could never forget because he was in the Navy, and he came over and visited when I was a little 4-year-old running around in Germany in a village. And my mom asked him, would you like a beer? He said, yeah. So she throws me a little Deutschmark and says, Eddie, at 4 years old, Eddie, go get your uncle a beer. And I run down to the tavern and go buy him a beer.
Yeah.
So here goes a 4-year-old coming back with a big liter bottle of beer. And it was no problem. And it just blew his mind that a 4-year-old comes walking down the street with a bottle of beer.
Yep.
It's no big deal. Yeah. They think of it differently.
Yes,
in France, it's wine. France and Italy. I think we've talked about it's wine in Champagne in France and Italy. In Germany, it's beer. It's not a big deal. You don't have the alcohol problem there that you have here. Now, I'm not saying they don't have alcoholics. Alcoholism is a medical issue. So you are going to have people that are going to have issues with addiction. The issue is addiction, right?
Thank you, Eddie.
It's whether it's
excess in addiction.
Exactly. Whether it's sexual addiction, whether it's gambling addiction, whether it's alcohol or marijuana, heroin.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Methamphetamine. You name it. Money addiction.
Right.
I mean, there are people that can't get enough money.
Okay.
So let me just finish my thought. So what we have and this brings me back to the whole thing with legislatures, whether it's state, local, or federal. It's this addiction to money. And so the state legislature or federal legislature can't get enough money, and they want to spend. Oh, thank you.
It was banging.
They want to spend this money, and they can't get enough of it. And it's your money. The problem would be okay if it's their money.
And now you're talking about a big addiction.
A big addiction.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting bigger. And they want your money. It's not their money. It's not Nancy Pelosi's own money.
Yeah.
Right? It's not AOC's own money. No, it's your money they want. And so it's got to stop.
Yeah. You've given me a lot to bite on here. I think about, the things that we feel like we need to crack down on. I get the image in my mind of the gossiping ladies at the back of the church that want to talk about that young man that used some vulgar language going out to his car. And whose language caused more damage in the church? Their gossip or that guy's vulgarity, right? And so we tend to pick and choose which are the big sins that we need to deal with here. I'm saying this. I've told you about myself, and I'm not saying it to brag, okay? By God's grace, I'm able to stand today.
Are you saying you're the young man using the vulgarity?
Oh, I have my vices,
no,
okay? I will say I have my vices, but I'm saying alcohol, marijuana, those are not currently.
Right.
But what I want to say is, those are things I govern myself on. At what point does it become the state's job to use the criminal code to govern my personal conduct? And I'll say this, it's when I cause harm to another. Now, you can make a stretch on this. And then I'm going to say one more thing, Eddie. At the point you're taking something that in and of itself is inherently physically addictive, I don't treat that the same as something like marijuana or anything. And of course, alcohol for some people is and some it isn't. Okay, but like cocaine or fentanyl and that, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable having the same view about those drugs as I am something like marijuana.
See, all right, as somebody that's not used it and somebody that has, I have to disagree because I believe marijuana is very addictive. I was addicted to it. I got delivered. I truly was delivered when I got saved from marijuana. In fact, about a month before I got saved, I remember thinking, will I ever be able to stop smoking marijuana?
Okay.
I really did. There were two things I was afraid of, LSD and marijuana. Would I ever LSD, it scared me because I had bad trips. But, you know, I was always afraid I would not be able to stop. And then marijuana, just because if I smelled it, I had to smoke it.
So let's throw this in the mix.
Okay.
What about something called the addictive personality disorder? There are people that just by nature become obsessed and addicted to things. Once they're into some, they take it to extremes. And then they'll move on to something else maybe. And that those kind of people, they need help. They need counseling because there's always going to be something for them, and they need to learn to control it. I don't think the statutory code is the solution in those cases. Now, I will say the casinos have a blacklist, and you could voluntarily say, don't ever let me in your casino, and you know what? When they card you, they will kick you out. You know, and I appreciate them doing that because they're asking you, the casinos, hey, I can't control me, I need you to control me.
See, yeah, my thing is, I do see a difference in alcohol and marijuana. Like, I understand what a social drinker is. Like, a person goes to a party twice a year, a couple of times a year, you know, maybe every few months or something, and they will have a mixed drink. Or they take their wife out on a weekend and have some wine.
Yeah, anniversary, have a wine with your meal.
Okay, and they don't need anymore.
Okay.
I don't see the person that smokes marijuana every 3 months.
A weekend thing.
Right. The people I know that smoke marijuana, they smoke marijuana. They smoke it regularly. And it becomes see, I look at marijuana, alcohol, and gambling. I don't just look at the physical detriment. Okay, the physical problems that it causes. I look at everything around it. Like, for example, the financial hardship.
Yes.
The amount of money that it costs.
Yeah, well, you're spending your family's money.
Right, exactly. And I remember we used to buy the dime. A lid. It was a lid. It was called a lid. They don't even. You tell a young person, "Oh, I remember. Yeah, we used to buy a lid." And our kids look at, "What, a lid? What in the heck are you talking about?" Marijuana.
Oh, okay.
It was a baggie. It was a baggie.
The dime bag.
Well, there's no such thing as a dime bag.
Well,
it's like a $50, an ounce. An ounce is like $50, $100 bucks or something now. Which
for a while, it was a dime bag.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even get a cigarette for a dime. It's a cigarette. One cigarette is $10 now.
Well, that's why when they call it dime, it was $10.
Yeah, or when I started, it was $5 for a lid. You know, which was like an ounce. And so it's so expensive. And I've also noticed just there's certain patterns it causes in people and things like that. So what I'm saying, it's more what it does to the whole social fabric versus physical. I'm not so worried about what it does to your mind, your body, and so forth. That's it. But the people who need it, I definitely want them to have access to it.
Yeah.
I do not think the medical community, somebody should say, yeah, you can have this, and this, but you can't have that.
Well,
if you need heroin, I don't care if it's heroin, morphine, speed, I don't care what it is. If it helps you medically, and it can be medically prescribed, and it can be documented that this person needs this for their condition, boom. You give it to them.
Yeah.
But other than that, it needs to be a no-no.
And Eddie,
so that's my whole.
And I think you would agree strongly. We both strongly agree on this. If you feel that you are just dependent on this from a behavioral, go see a therapist, because you've got a deeper issue, and marijuana is not going to fix the deeper issues. It's a Band-Aid. For my father, he went to counseling. He ended up being 100% disabled in the VA, over his PTSD and stuff, but it took a long time for the VA to own their responsibility for him, but they just wanted to give him benzos and say, okay, you're fixed.
Yeah, see, that's funny, because we come from different sides of that. See, my dad worked at the VA.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who would talk to people like your dad to decide whether or they should. And he used to come home, and back in that day, it wasn't diagnosed as PTSD. It was paranoid schizophrenia is what they called it after Vietnam. I guess it was shell shock after World War I and World War II.
Yeah. Battle fatigue, shell shock.
Right, exactly. It's the same, basically the same thing. They just keep coming up.
Schizophrenia is a completely different thing.
Well, but they just changed the name or brought a new umbrella in, and it cost more and more. They didn't have PTSD, paranoid schizophrenia, back in the 60s.
Well, schizophrenia was always
but they didn't have the paranoia schizophrenia.
Paranoia is just one of the symptoms that
I understand. I'm saying they did not have that diagnosis back in the 60s.
Yeah.
That developed later. And so it's like they've continually, I guarantee if we have another war, they will come up with some. No, I'm serious.
I'm laughing because what you're saying is so true.
It's got to come up with something new.
Maybe
it's like the BA
excess COVID boosters.
Exactly, the BA .5. The Delta BA 5. So that's all I'm saying. Is just.
And
my dad used to come home. He said, "Oh, had another paranoid schizophrenic come in today," and he would always come in. He said sometimes, and I know he sounded cruel, but see, this was his life. This is what he dealt with every day. And he would say he would talk about the Patton movie with George C. Scott. Remember?
Yeah, the slap scene
where he,
in the medic tent.
Yeah, just get a grip on yourself. Come on.
Well, yeah, but
the finish. It gets to what you were saying, where the Army would just say, here's a bag of stuff, take this, rather than dealing with the real issues that these guys had.
From what my father said back in the 80s, when they finally started giving him some care in that, he said the schizophrenic diagnosis was a way that they could escape responsibility, because they said it's nothing that happened to you in the battle. You had schizophrenia, which is basically a genetic thing. And because here's the thing we know in DSM-5, schizophrenia hits men more than women, okay? Not saying exclusive, but more so. And schizophrenia hits primarily in the college years, which are also the enlistment years. And so it's naturally going to show up amongst guys who are enlisted quite a bit. Okay, it's still, less than 5%. But, so what I'm saying on that is, when they use that term, to me, that's the VA trying to skirt responsibility.
Yeah,
and so people who did get diagnosed as schizophrenia with a paranoid symptom, some of those people may have been misdiagnosed. And it may have been...
I believe they were. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It was just, and that's what my dad was saying, that he just felt that was an easy way for the military to just write off somebody, and
right, and there's nothing to cure schizophrenia. You could take substances that help lessen the noise or the voices, right? But they're sedating, and that's basically what they're trying to do.
The other side of it was a lot of guys, once they found out that these guys are getting this, and this, then you would get the freeloaders that would come in and claim that. It's like what I call white man's welfare. See, no self-respecting white person would want to be on welfare.
Why are you bringing race in this, Eddie?
Well, because it's true. It's true.
But a well-respected black man might?
Yes. Claim welfare.
Okay.
On welfare. Welfare is something associated with ghetto dwellers, or slum dwellers or whatever. It's a black person's death. So what happens, white people found out that I can get on disability. I can't work. well, you look fine to me. Oh, no, I got problems. What are they? Why, I got problems. I mean, I've seen them. I see them come into my office, you know, they say, well, in another month, I'm going to get my disability. And so you have all these young white people on disability and the young black people on welfare. And it's like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who plays the game better?
Yep.
You know, it started out, it's like marijuana started out as a black man's drug, right? White people, I don't know if you know this, but the whole history, white people used to have to go into the hood to buy their drugs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, eventually, it migrated to the college campuses and then into the suburbs.
Yeah.
And that's how, and so the same thing has basically happened with all these other social diseases and drugs and things like that. And welfare is one. It just changed its name to disability. So it's a shame that we have these things, and I think some of these illnesses and all, it's happened and here's the problem. It's to the detriment of the people who really need it. This is what's really bad. That you do have people that truly do have the ailment, that truly do need it.
Yeah. And
yet everybody it gets back to the whole thing of affirmative action, for example, right? That's why Clarence Thomas so rightly pointed out that the problem is once you brought in affirmative action, those black students who achieved on their own merit, they were underappreciated. Everybody just assumed that because they were black,
you were the token.
Yeah, you were accepted because of your affirmative action. Or you're another affirmative action person, and so forth.
Eddie,
and so that's the tragedy that
I'm going to take responsibility, Eddie, for this show hijack. I wore this shirt, and I butted to the front of the line. Eddie's got quite a list.
Well, no. I'm glad. I think this is I think it's a very important topic, and not just because it deals with so much. I mean, we've talked about a whole, and the real issue, Dave, I think is not even cannabis, okay? If cannabis started it, and I think it just shows kind of what's happened to our nation in government. Government is behind all of this. Government is the reason that our tax money has gone from legalizing medical marijuana to basically legalizing marijuana, period, right? It's for the disability payments. It's for welfare payments to people who don't need it. And what it does, it actually takes away, because the people who do need it probably aren't getting as much as they should, so they can give it to the people who shouldn't be getting it.
Yeah, I will say this. Chip Hall, the author of 780, and a good friend of mine, nobody hates the West Coast, the California model on marijuana more than him, because that was designed by government to enrich government, to grow government, and the government got to pick the winners and losers of who gets a license, and they taxed it to the hilt. And when Chip was going to negotiate with the legislature right after it passed, he called me up on the road one day, and I said, Chip, our Alamo is the home grow, because I don't want an entitlement for people. I want an empowerment. If they can't afford the medicine, then grow their own. And the person who grows their own medicine is not the social pariah that our society deals with.
But Dave, it's still happening. Still happening. Do you know, if you look at the number of licenses that were originally issued?
Oh, yeah.
And the ones that have gone out of business?
Oh, at least a third, I would say.
Oh, probably more than that. And more. And now what they've done, a lot of Chinese, I don't know if you've been following the news, but the Chinese have come and bought land all over the state. Just hundreds of farms.
In several other states.
Right. Yeah. And they've cracked down now on the Chinese, but there are these California big-time conglomerates that have basically bought the marijuana farms and the retailers, and they have front people. So they'll give somebody like Dave or myself, we get the license, but it's really owned by California because they did, was it 5 years? I think it was either 2 or 5 years that you have to be Oklahoma resident.
There's something called the Tennessee winery case that went to U.S. Supreme Court, where they didn't want to let any new players in the wine business in Tennessee. They put a 2-year mandate on residency before you could apply for a license. Well, that was a violation of the U.S. Constitution, the equal protection, So, in light of that, our Attorney General said, you got to get rid of those 2-year waiting periods. That came from the Supreme Court.
Okay, so now anybody can
get
a license.
You still have to be, in order to be 75% of ownership of a business needs to be people who reside in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so, and that's still messy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because basically they could put me on the roll as the 25% owner.
Right. When we first legalized in '59 for liquor stores, we said only sole proprietors could apply, and they had to be an Oklahoman. And this became a problem, and recently when we overhauled all our liquor laws, it was one of the things we got rid of. We allowed corporate ownership of liquor enterprises. The reason they wanted to do sole proprietor is because if they're violating the law, running a side bootlegging operation, they wanted to be able to arrest and put that guy in jail and shut down that business. If that business is in his name personally, and that's why they did it that way.
I see.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, we don't want to go down more rabbit
Yeah, that's right. By the way, I wanted to say, this portion is brought to you by Happy Buds. Golden Reefer.
Oh, God, the name of some of those weed shops. They call them dispensaries. They're weed shops.
Dispensary, right? Oh, man.
I know.
Oh, dispenser misery. Dispense misery.
You know how I got in the doghouse with a lot of these people? Because they relied pretty heavily on me on some of the political side of getting this. And I started, when they first started opening these stores, and they look like, trash. And I said, could you guys at least get some lab coats to wear so you look somewhat clinical? Oh, God, they hated me. They called me a bigot.
Most of them are run by just dopers, young kids.
And you know what? That's the ones who ended up out of business. They weren't good business people. No. They thought this was going to be great.
Right.
And, we had a big spike and then a big crash. Some of those guys were out in less than 6 months out of business.
Well, the $2,500 for the license, first of all. And then what a lot of them didn't count on is the fact that they didn't realize that you don't get to deduct your expenses on your taxes.
Yeah.
So you do for state taxes, but for federal taxes, you can't. Mm-hmm. So just think, if 50% of your expense for your product is expense, which you would normally deduct, no, you can't. You have to declare all of that income, and so you're...
And some friends of mine, but people I go to church with at old dispensaries, and they went out a bit, and they said, you've got to vertically integrate this in order to make it work. You have to have the grow operation, the processing, and the dispensary, because there's things you can write off at one level that you can't write off at another level.
Exactly.
And like your labor. So you put that on the grow side as much as possible and have them work both, and structure their salary package to where you get to deduct more of it off the grow side.
Yeah,
so there's all kinds of things they have to do. And all of that is because of our government. If our government at the federal level would treat this in a sensible way, like Kevin Hearn, our congressman, I talked to him about it, and fortunately he voted correctly on this. They weren't even allowed to put that money in the bank. Banks would not take them.
Right. Well, because the bank, it's illegal.
The federal government says we will seize assets that come from illegal drug businesses. And so they're running down to the Oklahoma Tax Commission with cash, and millions of dollars show up on the 10th of each month. And so, the
and that puts them at risk with asset forfeiture if they get stopped by the highway patrol with all that cash for drug money, which is crazy.
And it was the staff at the tax commission pleading, we don't want all this money here. When you got millions of dollars coming over that counter in an 8-hour day, you're like, my God, we could all be mowed down for the loot, And so fortunately, in our House, Kevin Hearn and Stephanie Bice have voted for this, but both our senators said they wouldn't. And to me, that's a public safety issue.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that...
We covered a lot there.
I think we did. Wow, yeah. Hey, couple of quick hits here. Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old Steve. Right. Steve has been found guilty of contempt of Congress.
Yeah.
Which he's probably the first person ever found guilty. I don't know of anybody that's actually been brought to court for contempt of Congress. Yeah. At least in the last 40, 50 years. We remember the former Attorney General, Holder.
Yeah.
He just refused to show up, and it was basically no big deal. They didn't. Nobody brought him to court. Bannon decides he's not going to show up, and he said it's because he said it was privileged. He was underprivileged executive privilege because he was in the Trump administration. Yeah. They said, nope, doesn't matter, doesn't count. You're guilty. You're going to jail. He's out now, of course, pending his attempted appeal.
Well, they haven't sentenced yet.
No, right. But also, he's going to appeal it, of course. Right. And it's 2 years? I guess it's a 2-year, because it's a misdemeanor. But I don't know.
Misdemeanors are 1 year or less, aren't they?
I heard 2 years.
Maybe the federal has it different than the state. But I do want to say, and he cut to the chase on it afterwards out in the sidewalk. He said the judge claimed he was compelled to accept the finding of Congress and that the court literally could not litigate and bring evidence for the court to decide if he was in contempt of Congress. And that just flies on its ears.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to use the judicial branch to exact punishment on somebody, but yet they don't have evidence, then you don't have due process.
Hello.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, Alan Dershowitz, who has become, I have to say, Alan is probably the straightest jurist I've ever seen. I mean, he really shoots it down the line.
He's a liberal in the best sense of the word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He truly is. I used to not like him when he was defending the Clintons, but that was my own prejudice, of course, as most of us. But he really does. And he said, though, he predicted, he said he doesn't stand a chance. Bannon doesn't stand a chance. In D.C., he said, you can hang it up. He said he's going to be convicted.
Yeah, but 10 years ago, he was on some TV talk show, and the host was just swooning about how great this guy. And Dershowitz himself said, don't fall in love with me. I will break your heart. He said, because I am going, he says, look, I'm going to call it how I see it, and I make both sides mad all the time.
He does. And I love it. And, I don't know if you know, but Ted Cruz was one of his students.
Yes, and he called him his best student.
Yeah, which shows, I mean, Ted must have taken good notes because, no, and they all respect him. They all like Dershowitz because apparently he really is good.
Oh, and
when it comes to the law, he strictly is about the law.
You know what I like? About 20 years ago, one of the top professors at Harvard that had the most acclaim was Lawrence Tribe.
Yeah, I remember
and to hear Dershowitz just talk smack about Lawrence
he
Tribe.
hated
Tribe.
Still
hates him.
He still.
Yes!
Turn it up, he was at Harvard, right? Harvard. Lawrence Tribe.
Yeah, both of them Harvard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's same school and the same department.
Yeah.
And it's just, But Dershowitz, he's on Newsmax now. He's pretty regular. He's a contributor on Newsmax. So
my favorite cable news network.
Yeah, mine too. I watch it most of the time. I go to Tucker. I go to Fox for Tucker.
Yes.
Tucker, yeah. And then we go over to things.
Yep.
But, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So, yeah, what's next for Bannon is really in the judge's hands.
Yeah,
judges and the appellate court.
I think the judge is actually being foolish because he's allowing Bannon to really make himself now a martyr and make this a bigger case than it needed to be. He should have just found a way to let him go away quietly.
Yeah.
And but now all of a sudden this is going to become a big issue, and if it goes to appeal and he gets found not guilty under appeal, or he starts bringing in witnesses and so forth. It's almost like the Democrats are becoming their own worst enemies because they're pushing these things. Take the January 6th committee.
Oh God, yeah.
They're just asking for it because once the true story starts coming out about everything they're doing now, they're actually hoping with all their might that they can keep the House and or Senate and keep from having the other side come in and reveal everything that's really going on, because if they don't, it's going to be bad.
Okay, so a couple nights ago was supposed to be the final primetime hearing of the January 6th committee, and then the chairman says, no, we're going to continue on.
Yeah.
And
but when are they coming back?
Well, in September.
In September.
Right.
And they're going to go through till
exactly.
through October.
This is all the Democrats have, is this narrative.
Yeah. And I figured out what it is. Okay, so I'm going to tell you basically what they're doing, okay? This is not about January 6th, about the people that they're going. This is truly all about Donald Trump. It's purely Trump.
Not the entire mega movement. Not just Trump.
No,
they've got to destroy the whole philosophical.
Well, but no, really, this is about Donald Trump. This is to hurt Trump enough to where he doesn't run again. That's all this is about. I mean, Trump is the MAGA movement, really.
He is.
And so,
there are so many disciples of it now.
Yeah.
It overwhelmingly controls the Republican Party.
But well, he does. And if you cut the head of the snake, which in their minds, Donald is the snake, that's what they've got to do.
I don't think so.
Oh, I guarantee.
If they took out Trump, the movement
we'll let you decide. We report.
I'm saying the movement would be stronger if Trump fell over dead tomorrow.
Okay. See, this is what's happening. In fact, I'm glad you brought this up because this is something I've figured this all out because it's already happening. I don't know, speaking of Newsmax, if you've already seen, they're running commercials now for Ron DeSantis.
A group is, yeah.
Yeah. And even my wife, I've noticed even my wife, it's starting to affect her. She has fallen for it, and she's already told me, I think maybe it's better if they choose someone else. This is what this is all about. This is what it's about. It has been to whittle at, chip at, just keep pecking at Donald to the point where it just diminishes, and it's like a water torture, and that eventually it will pull enough support away from Donald Trump to where Republicans will disown him. That's what the hope is. Yeah. That is what the hope is.
That kind of dissension to bring destruction has to happen from within, though. They have to present a cancer from within. It won't come from without.
Oh, no, and that's what's happening, right?
It won't be successful from without.
And that's what's happening. Who are they bringing in? Look at all of the people testifying, right? It's all these people that were staffers. They worked with Trump, the
turncoats.
This, the that, exactly.
Turncoats.
But they're not presented as turncoats. I mean,
right.
Obviously, you and I know they're turncoats.
That's right.
And most of them were fired, or disgruntled, and all that. But they're not presented that way by the media,
right? No,
outside of Newsmax.
They're carefully scripting it so they don't diminish the movement, just Trump. And
right.
no, that's exactly it. Now, here's the thing happened with Bannon. About 2 weeks before this trial, Trump announced, I am waiving executive privilege for Bannon now. And so Bannon is not bound so that he can't testify. Because Bannon always said, no, legally I would be breaking the law if I testified. I would be violating the president's rights. And well, here's the thing. At this point, there is no way the January 6th Commission will ever give a microphone to Bannon. No. He will destroy them. Right. Remember when Ollie North destroyed the Iran-Contra hearings?
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were not expecting that.
They interviewed the Secret Service guys that drove on the January 6th.
Right.
That would have contradicted the young lady that said Trump tried to take the steering wheel.
Yeah, and choke a guy.
And what did they do? It was a closed hearing.
Yes.
That one wasn't broadcast, right? Well, obviously, why? Because they would have contradicted her testimony, right? It's the craziest thing in the world that anybody would even buy any of this stuff. The only good news is that nobody cares. I mean, it's like the ratings for this are silly. So, you know, we've been watching the the World Track and Field Championships all week. That's what we've been watching on USA. It's funny because it's an NBC channel. We've been watching that on USA or CNBC. We've been watching the World Track and Field Championships, which has been really good. It's been a lot of fun. So,
Alex Steiner is the hero. You got me. I went and watched it. Wow.
Yeah, she got beat though. She
she's still good.
Well, oh no, she's still good. But I'll tell you what, those Jamaican women.
Oh yeah.
Burners. I mean, they just killed it, you know.
Yep.
But but Abby, Abby's young. We've got another few young. But the real superhero is Sydney McLaughlin. She just broke her own world record in the women's 400 meter hurdles for the third time in a row.
She beat Steiner.
No, they're in a total different. Steiner's the 200.
They were
Sydney
both,
McLaughlin.
They were both in the 4x400 relay, I think.
No, they're in a totally different.
Really?
No.
Okay, I got to mix it.
Yeah, you got to mix that.
Okay.
But Sydney McLaughlin's the 400 hurdles, and Sydney broke her own record for the third time in a row.
Wow!
And it's faster, and she's about to break the 50-second mark, which no woman has ever. I mean, 50-second, it's like the sound barrier, you know. So it's unbelievable. So Sydney is the one who she's the real superhero. But Abby, don't worry, Abby will be fine. There's about 3 of them, and then 100 meters. Noah Lyles just smoked. But nevertheless, and there's a high school kid. We have this high school kid who still has run faster than Noah.
Wow.
Yeah, but he's and they had this little feud going on between them, but they made up. They ironed it out. But just think about it. The kid just turned 18. He was 17 years old, and he had the fastest time.
Did he compete?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Noah beat him last 2 times. So, but this kid's got a future. He's just tall, thin, and we're throwing this in the middle of all of this other stuff. We were talking all this serious stuff, and all of a sudden,
while the January 6th.
This has been this is a refreshing break to clear the palate from all this crap that we've been putting you through about the dirty Democrats and these traitorous Republicans that we have. Oh man. Okay. I think we've dealt with that now.
I do want to say, and this goes on, is I think the tide's turning on this whole gender crap that the NCAA and our college athletics is really being exposed for. They are anti-science.
Anti-everything.
Because the whole NCAA now is celebrating a guy who for 20 years was full of testosterone, and now for last year he's felt his feminine side, and now he's Woman of the Year from 1 year.
They didn't give it to him though. They gave it to this is just as bad. I mean, you're talking about a slap in the face. The athlete of the year, the female athlete of the year, is the American girl that gave up her American citizenship to become Chinese. in the Olympics.
So it's politics.
So she becomes Chinese, but she's still going to live in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about silliness.
It's
and
politics.
This is what ESPN has done.
Well,
they
and
have
the NCAA. They're
No, this was the ESPYs. This was the ESPYs.
Oh, you're talking about ESPY. I'm talking about NCAA themselves.
Right. The NCAA, right. And I think wasn't it the ESPN that was given that Woman of the Year, or was it NCAA?
That was NCAA.
Oh, okay. I don't know I don't think they've given that award yet.
I just heard glowing statements coming from the NCAA.
Yeah, it was the University of Pennsylvania that nominated her for the
right,
Woman of the Year.
Which is her school.
Right. So I don't know if that
school.
It'd be worth looking up if you want to look it up if they've done that yet. I don't know, but I don't think that one's out yet. But if they do, that would be something. I doubt that'll happen though. In fact, if they do, every woman in the audience should get up and walk out.
Yeah,
that would be a protest. If every woman in the audience that day got up and walked out, if the NCAA gives that award to this guy, so
yeah.
So while you're looking for that, hey, did you see this? Nancy Pelosi was asked in a press conference about her husband, and the pure coincidence that her husband just happened to invest in all of these companies just before before they were meeting with Congress on whether Congress was going to okay these appropriations for these companies.
Yeah.
And then she fled. She took off before she would answer the questions.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
yeah.
She's nailed. They've got her to. They've got her to the rights. Nancy, I think her time is up. She really needs to get out of there because people just know. I mean, they know what's up. They know what's up. And I think San Francisco. I think the first shot across the bow was when they got rid of the district attorney, right? The DA in San Francisco?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a warning sign to Nancy.
And that was an initiative petition drive from the voters themselves.
And I think the people in San Francisco are waking up to realize that they've been putting their confidence in the wrong people.
Yeah, you're right. At this point, Leah Thomas is just nominated for NCAA. It's not final yet.
All right, good. So I'm glad we can put that to rest.
That's for 2022.
Yeah. So, but Pelosi, she has become stinking rich instead of just rich, stinking, filthy rich, because her husband has been making these trades in companies that have come before Congress.
Right.
See, I believe that when you get elected to Congress, you should not be allowed to trade stocks, period. You should be shut out from doing any stock trades for however long you're in Congress. If you want to serve Congress, you serve Congress. You're no longer. That will make sure that only the purest of motives are involved. I won't name any names, but we've had people I know in the past who have been heavily in debt and come out of Congress out of debt.
Oh yeah,
and made a lot of money.
Yeah,
in Congress.
And the problem with policing this is the whole Hunter Biden syndrome, where Joe Biden doesn't shake him down for bribes.
Right.
He just has him appoint Hunter to boards, and then Hunter, to quote some of the famous lap book stuff, he's 10% for the big guy. You know, and it's problem. How far do you limit their families?
Yeah, well, see, that's it. Like Nancy says, I've never, and my husband, that's what he does. I don't know what he does. Yeah, right. You and your husband don't talk. Yeah. Right.
Now, when Jimmy Carter was president, his brother Billy started his own brand of beer. It actually was a brewery close by my hometown. And if you're Billy, it's like, no, wait a minute. How does my brother getting elected office somehow take away my rights?
Right.
Or if you're Roger Clinton and you're making deals to secure amnesty for people. And Roger got rich. You know, it's really tough to police that.
Oh, it
really
is
tough.
Oh, yeah. In Nancy's case, you know, well, he's my husband. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But it's quite a coincidence that he just happens to always trade a week or two before these...
Yes, before it comes up to vote. Now, the person who controls the docket for what gets a floor vote is Pelosi. It is completely within her power.
Right.
And so, for every 1,000 bills that gets filed, maybe 3 or 4 get a floor vote. It's that, because people will file bill just so they can write a press release for the folks back home.
Yeah, and we're talking, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in at one time.
Yeah.
We're not talking like maybe I'll do $100, $200.
Yeah, and it's not something that they otherwise were involved in that industry at all.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just see, IPOs were the worst one back in the 90s.
Right. Hey, I want to, and this is pretty important. This you'll love this because it's local. It's the race for county commissioner.
In Tulsa County, yeah.
Yeah, you'll love this. This is your kind of stuff, okay? Bob Jack.
Yeah, at 35%.
And Mr. Dunkerley.
Yes, Kelly Dunkerley at 49 and change.
Okay.
So Dunkerley almost avoided a runoff.
Yeah. Okay. Someone sent me a thing this week. Now, I don't know Dunkerley at all. And I don't know that much about Bob Jack either, so I'm not really involved. But someone sent me a text, but it was this notice. It was like an email, blast email they received from someone, and they were attacking Dunkerley, but the whole post was not about Kelly Dunkerley. It was about, I can't think of his name now, and I know him. He's a friend of mine.
Local guy? Yeah,
it was the insurance agency in Jenks.
Oh, Tedford.
Yeah. Mark Tedford Agency. I'm sorry, Mark. I really apologize. Anyway, the Mark Tedford Agency. And so it was an attack on the more of an attack on Mark Tedford, but they were associating Kelly Dunkerley because he worked for Mark Tedford, trying to say that Kelly Dunkerley is dirty somehow or not good because he worked for Mark Tedford, and because Mark Tedford got into a race unopposed.
Yeah, he's now basically our elect state representative.
Right, because he was unopposed.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Anybody else had been paying attention could have jumped into the race.
And they both filed the same day. Right. I mean, or the same week. The filing happened both, so nobody knew what was going to happen in either race.
Right. Well, they're trying to say that the lady who had the job, Sheila Dills,
2 terms,
called Mark and told Mark to.
Well, she recommended that he seek it and told her that she's not going to. Told him not going to seek another term.
So that's the implication. Okay. Well, so what? So what? If you can tell somebody that you would like them to take your place.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was okay. But now here's the big one. This is and this is where I got mad. Okay, they accused Mark. This person accused Mark because Mark has the insurance, for the county. Okay, and that Dunkerley, there was some kind of shenanigans would be shenanigans because Dunkerley works for the agency that insures the county. Okay. Well, here's and all the commission involved in all this. Okay. First of all, Kelly Dunkerley has already agreed to resign his position at the Tedford Agency.
Oh, sure.
He's resigning.
Yeah, our county commissioners make good money.
Right.
You don't need a side job when you're county commissioner.
Well, okay. So, but he's not. He won't be working for the insurance agency.
Right.
Okay. So he's done there. But secondly, do you know how much they make for the insurance? But the way it works, and here's how I know this, because I asked Mark to help me because I was trying to bid for the city of Tulsa and the county for this job. Well, normally as an insurance agent, you make 8 to 10% commission. So let's say it's $1 million to insure them for liability, all the buildings, all the vehicles.
Okay, that's an $80,000 commission.
Right, but they won't do that. They won't pay you that. So you got to go with a flat commission.
Okay. Yeah.
So the county, the commission is actually $450.
Okay.
$450.
That's not much of an incentive.
And it's a lot of work.
That's a lot of headache.
That's a lot of work. I mean, a lot, because you got to detail and you got to get sheets. And now, I can't remember exactly whether one of them's like $5,000. The other one is $450. Okay, but let's just put it this way: it's not 10%. It's not a whole lot of money compared to the size of the business. If you insure a normal business, you're going to get a 10% commission. Okay.
Sure.
If I insure St. Francis, for example, if I insure any big private industry, it's going to be a 10% commission.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I might do 5%, but still, you're looking at a ton of money. Okay.
Okay.
So this is not. So basically, it really irked me when I read this. Like I said, I don't know Duncan. I've never met him. Don't know anything about him, but when I heard this, I said, whatever I do, I'm going to get this out there. That it was like when I started seeing Trump attacked way back, and it was malicious attacks. I thought some of them, a bunch of bogus stuff.
Yeah.
That put me on his side.
Like questioning how many people are at the Mabee Center.
So, yes. so that wasn't one of them, but that was more fun. So that put me on his side, because I can't stand that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
people put out false, malicious stuff like that, it really, really ticks me off. So I want to say that I didn't have I was actually leaning more towards Bob Jack, to be honest with you. I really was. I even at one point was offering to help him. But after reading stuff like that, I'm sorry, I can't do that. So I have to say, I am now a fan of, and going to say I support Kelly Dunkerley in this, because when you're putting out that kind of false, bogus stuff, because this is the business that I'm in, and when people are lying and making up this stuff, that's just
and you're a rare one. You would know these details about insurance policy writing.
And I know Mark Tedford. Mark Tedford's a strong Christian guy. I met Mark through Bible study. Yeah, I was attending a men's thing every Friday morning. A group of guys would get together and meet at Panera, and he would lead this Bible study. I just know he's a very high integrity guy. He's not going to. We worked together on Oklahoma Wesleyan University on the insurance up there, and he's very careful and very good, very straight.
That's good. It sounds like a competent guy. I do want to say this. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I've had a number of people try to get me to write stories about this particular election. Now, the day that you had scheduled to bring in T.W. Shannon for the U.S. Senator, he was supposed to be down at the Republican Men's Club. Well, I went there, and Bob Jack got up and announced certain people as endorsing his campaign. And then afterwards, somebody said, no, I don't think that's true. You should check with those people. So I sent a text to a couple of them, a former county commissioner and a current county commissioner. One of them said, absolutely, I endorse Bob. The other said, no, I told him specifically I wouldn't. And so Bob finds out about it and texts me, says, I understand you're reaching out to talk to these people. So Bob didn't wait for me. He said, look, I've got to clarify this. I was right about Fred Perry, but the other one, and I'll just say Ron Peters, I went too far on that, and I'm correcting that. So, okay? And I just said, like I told Fred Perry, I said, somebody was trying to make an issue of this. I said, there's no story here. I said, I'm not going to write anything. And then last week, a good friend of mine, citizen journalist, David Oldham, come with this salacious thing about, do you hear about the lie that Kelly Dunkerley said? He's claiming that our Oklahoma Tax Commission, Agency Commissioner, Clark Jolly endorsed him. And Clark says, no, I didn't. And I said, you know what? I said, to me, the two are the same thing. They both overstated the amount of support they had. And I am not going to write stories like this that are gotchas for either side. Because I said, I want to talk about the issues. You know? And I've come down and said, I'm supporting Dunkerley in this. Bob is somebody I have worked with. Bob does have his strengths. But he also has some weaknesses, too. And quite honestly, I'm more likely to be confident of Kelly Dunkerley. I do think that Bob has a high hill, a steep hill to climb, because you got to hope you can peel off some of his votes, Kelly Dunkerley's, because he's already at 70 or 49 point something, and Margie Alfonso, who got like 15%, she's endorsed Dunkerley.
Yeah, I saw that.
So you got to hope for a whole new dynamic here. And I think, and I'm not going to say Bob did this, but some people who really want Bob in are the ones spreading these things about Mark Tedford. And I do have a problem with trying to soil a business partner to get at a case.
Yeah, that's what was so weird, because this whole email had nothing against Kelly Dunkerley. I mean, really, it mentions him in the beginning, but the whole thing is about Mark Tedford. It was just weird.
Yeah.
You know, you're not supposed to vote for. It would be like saying, you know, Dave Van Rizighem, you know, is a bad guy because he's on a show and then just talks about me the whole rest of the time. Says nothing about you. Yeah. You know, Eddie Huff beats his wife. He stole from such and such, and he did this and this, and you know he hates blah 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 blah. You know, and I mean, can you imagine that you make your decision on an association and you know nothing about you?
Yeah, it just shows how pathetically desperate the campaign is when they stoop to this kind of thing.
Yeah, nothing about Kelly Dunkerley, nothing. I mean, seriously. And then to find out that Dunkerley has already written a resignation that if he wins, he's done with that business. So there can be no conflict of interest there because he's not making any money from it. So. Yeah, it's just crazy. I hate it bothers me when I see stuff like that.
It's bad campaigning, and when I was head of the Republican Assembly, a bunch of people running for party office, and I just gave them all a lecture right after they announced. I said, this is going to be about what your strengths are, not what your opponent's weaknesses are.
Exactly.
And I said, don't be a party that tears itself down.
Right, exactly.
And by God, I am sick of primary season because we're not fighting the opponent. Yeah. We are fighting our own forces.
Yeah, see, and I learned a long time ago in the insurance business even, I'm not one of these people, I will never talk bad about another insurance company to make my product sound good.
Yeah.
Like so for example, you know, if I come to your house and try to sell you my insurance product, I'm going to tell you about my insurance product.
Yeah.
I will never talk to you about the other insurance product because that does no good.
I want to give you just a contrast, an illustration. Andrew Giuliani was running for governor of New York against
Zeldin.
Lee Zeldin.
Which is something else we need to talk about.
Right.
But go ahead.
So Andrew loses, and Lee just ran a better campaign. He just and it was by 2-to-1 margin. Guess who's out working the campaign now for Lee Zeldin?
Andrew.
Well, not so much Andrew, is Rudy, the dad. The proud father of Andrew says, Lee, I'm going to now work to get you elected.
Yeah, see, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's just, what? Speaking of that, hey.
Take it out. Yeah, how's that for a segue?
That is. I mean, and you didn't even know what I was going to talk about. That's so funny. Here it is. Ted Cruz says Trump announcing 2024 run would significantly clear the field. Senator Ted Cruz said Friday that if former President Donald Trump announces he's running for president in 2024, he would lead to many other candidates deciding against their own.
Sure.
Right. He told Fox Digital at the Turning Point USA USA conference in Tampa, Trump is going to do what he wants to do. He will remain an incredibly important leader in the United States.
Sure.
I'm sure it clears out significantly in a potential scenario of Trump running again in 2024. We'll see what happens. Look at the lay of the land. Excuse me. Is everyone looking at the lay of the land? Everyone's waiting to see what Trump decides to do. Anyone who tells you that they're not is lying.
Yeah.
And he's going to decide, or whatever time frame he desires. I think he accomplished an enormous amount as president. I was proud to work hard, hand in hand with him, in achieving the results for the American people.
Yeah.
So, see, and I get goosebumps. Seriously, I'm getting goosebumps even saying that.
Can you chill up your leg? Sorry.
No,
Chris Matthews, that's for you.
Yeah, no, mine is down my arms.
Yeah.
Because you remember how brutal Trump was to Ted Cruz. I mean, Donald was hard on Ted. You know, about his dad. He
was nasty.
He was nasty.
Picking on his wife's looks. Yeah.
So for Ted, that really says a lot. That says a lot that Ted, what a man he is, and I really appreciate that. And now
that's really big of you after 2016, Eddie. Because I was a Cruz guy, he was the Trump guy. You know?
Well, I started out a Cruz guy, but one of the things that got me was the Cruz people, not you, but Cruz people attacking, actually not Donald Trump, but it was when they attacked Ben Carson, the way they handled Ben Carson, that kind of. But I don't want to get sidetracked on all that right now. But anyway, but that is exactly it. That Ted Cruz, who lost to Donald Trump, has turned and become such a supporter of Donald Trump, when people who were initially Donald Trump supporters and colleagues have turned the other way. It really says a lot. You really have to admire that and take recognition of it.
Yeah, I do want to say Trump has already, by default, he's already announced, because he did say this week, I have made my decision. Now, he either decided yes or no. If he decided no, he would have notified, or he would be lining up people, he would be right away clearing the ground, because it's in his best interest that we get good candidates there.
Well, maybe not. I beg to differ, and here's why. He knows. See, actually, I think Donald not announcing is to the benefit, if he's not. Let's say if he's not going to run. I think him not announcing really works to the benefit of whoever would be the candidate, because he is what we used to call the spear catcher.
Yeah.
He's the target. So, for example, January 6th, it's all about him. Up until he either announces one way or another, he is going to be the target of all of the Democrat ire. He is the target of all their money, of everything is at him. So, let's say next March. Let's say March.
Okay.
He decides, I'm not running. And I support Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Then, at that point, what's going to happen? You tell me what's going to happen as soon as he says it's Ron DeSantis.
Oh, then everything switches over.
Everything.
But I want to say this, Eddie. If that's true, then Trump is a greater man than I ever estimated. Because the kind of effort he's putting in, running, I mean, he did a rally last night in Arizona. And a lot of this is out of his pocket, or he's having to raise money for a lot of this. You know, he just had to retrofit and get his plane ready to go. You know, because he's got to take it back. The guy is so committed.
Right.
For a man who's already decided he's not running,
but just
that's an unbelievable sacrifice.
Right, but just think, see, I think whether he runs or not is really not the important thing. It will become the Trump party.
Yes.
So he will still be the most powerful man.
That's the amazing thing about it.
Right.
Because most of our Republican candidates, whether they got elected president or not, they've made it all about them. And as soon as they were done, they had no purpose. What happened to H.W. Bush?
Who?
Yeah, or T.W. or anything. They did nothing for the party once they left the White House.
Right. So just imagine Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump, honestly, people have done somewhat of a comparison between him and Teddy Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
So he could be like Teddy, but let's say he decides he picks Ron DeSantis or Kristi Noem. But she says she's not running. I'd vote for her. I love Kristi Noem. But anyway, but he decides he's going to support all of those people, because Ron's already got Florida, and he's got a lot of supporters anyway. Donald now says, this is the guy. And so he does the rallies, and he gets the people worked up, and then here's Ron. Ron comes out. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Game, set, match. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. I mean, the Democrats might as well just, I don't care if it is Michelle Obama, which we talked about last week. I don't know. By the way, let me repeat in case people, because we had kind of some glitches last week. I want to say again. Well, we'll talk about that after this.
I want to finish.
Yeah, let's finish this thought. But go ahead.
For Ted Cruz, it's actually to his advantage to support a one more term Trump guy, because in 24, Ted's up for re-election in the Texas seat.
Right.
But in 2028, that's in there where he's not running to keep his seat. So if you elect, let's say you get a Trump presidency in 24, it's an open seat in 28. Whereas DeSantis in 24, and he's successful, he's running for re-election in 28. That means Ted's got to wait longer.
Yeah.
So there's always that. But
there's also the chance of another open Supreme Court seat between now and then. So
there's always,
right. So if Trump
Clarence
wins,
Thomas is getting older.
Yeah, he is. Unfortunately, we need to just clone him or something. But no, I think Ted has done a great thing, and I love listening to him now. Because he. Oh,
the Verdict podcast is great.
Yeah, he's so smart. I mean, the guy's just very brilliant thinker.
Most of the time, sometimes he's just asinine as can be. He defined a terrorist as somebody who attacks cops, and that's actually like almost the opposite. True terrorism, it's to strike terror. You attack innocent victims. And when Ted called the people that went to the Capitol, he called them terrorists if they were out there fighting.
Yeah, he stepped in it on that one. A few of it, like as our dear friend.
And you know what?
My friend, Mark Wayne.
Yeah.
We have bad days.
Yeah.
We don't get it right all the time.
Now, Ted got into, he steps in it there, and then Tucker invited him on, and he was stupid enough to take Tucker. And Tucker said, Ted, you're not that stupid. Dang it. No, Ted, you're smarter than that.
Yeah, and
Tucker read him right.
Yeah, Ted didn't have it.
Ted declared victory, got out of Vietnam at that point.
Yeah, Ted you could tell on his face that he said, this ain't working.
That is not a definition.
Not working.
I mean, you criticize the liberals that can't define a woman. You can't define a terrorist.
Yeah. He's smarter than that.
But I like Ted.
Oh, yeah, we all do. Yeah, this is Ted territory. Hey, here's an interesting... Gavin Newsom, as I like to call him, Gavin Nuisance.
Yes.
He just signed a California gun control bill.
Yeah.
And he modeled it after the Texas abortion bill. So basically, the way this one works is it allows private citizens to sue any manufacturer that sells, transports, or distributes illegal assault weapons or ghost guns. Now, by illegal assault weapons, it's these guns that are made with parts from their guns. Are you familiar with that? Okay, so let's say I make the triggers, I make the hammers, I make the barrels, different parts of the gun. of the weapon is a better term for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a part for it, and somebody buys the part, and then they create their own gun, which are untraceable.
A ghost gun, an untraceable weapon.
Right, exactly. So then what they can do is, if your part was used in one of these untraceable weapons in mass murder or something like this, then the victims can sue you as a manufacturer. Well, first of all, I don't see where it's legal.
Constitutional.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because, you can't just sue somebody for making a legal product.
Right, there's mens rea is a test. You have to have the foresight, the intent, the knowledge of doing something criminal.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be like somebody steals a car and kills somebody, and then they
I go to Walmart and buy a cutlery set and go stab somebody. Is Walmart responsible?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a good try. They do all these things in California, and
they're just muddying up the court.
Yeah, and like I said, he was going to. They want to grant $10,000 in damages per weapon to private citizens to sue, and they could be awarded the same amount if they file a lawsuit against someone who illegally sells firearms to people under 21 years of age. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And what it is, it's supposed to combat or be kind of a retribution to Texas for passing the abortion law. So if somebody gets an abortion and then they have a regret, they can sue the doctor that gave them the abortion.
Well, I think it also allows family members that, if the woman gets an abortion and the father comes around and says, wait a minute, you killed my kid, or grandparents. That was my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, folks. Anyway, so that's what was my understanding of the Texas bill that got such notoriety, because it was a civil law thing, not a criminal law thing.
Right. Civil, yeah.
And that's what this is. What he did was allow you to sue in civil courts.
Yeah, that's even in Texas, that Texas law, I think that's still a hard one to get by, because the courts have never really held that the father has any say in the in an abortion
that case is still pending.
Yeah,
the Supreme Court has not ruled on that case.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to win. I don't think that's one that. I mean, sadly, I don't think the fathers are going to win in that case. That you can, or the grandparents. Because it's still the thing of the woman's rights and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's really kind of sad that fathers, on one hand, we're letting the dads off the hook. On the other hand, we're holding them liable for stuff. You know what I mean? It's almost like...
Well, here's one, and, our legislature's in special session here in Oklahoma right now. Actually, kind of a couple of things going on. But somebody threw up, and I don't know who it was, I'm sorry, as the idea of, let's make child support liability from conception. I actually, you know what, Dad? You're responsible. She's got medical. She's got to see her doctor. She's got to see the OBGYN,
That would end a lot of abortions.
Oh.
No, I think it would, because a lot of women would all of a sudden say, hey.
Are you saying that men would go on strike and say, we're going to abstain just in protest? This is a good idea, folks. Keep it in your pants.
Well... Well, no, but it would get women to say, okay, I'm going to get you. You're going to pay for this,
Right.
On the women's end, I wasn't thinking so much about the guys abstaining as I was on the women not getting the abortion, because now, especially if it's a guy that's got some means, that he's going to pay for this,
Right. Now, 100 years ago, I mean, my dad was born on the kitchen table, and that was standard back during the Depression era, and even before then. Hospitals for maternity wasn't really a thing until you started getting into the later 30s and 40s.
Is it before or after Grace?
But what I'm saying is, before birth, there wasn't a lot of expense. Now, my God, it's huge. Maternity benefit, well, youth right insurance, you know how much more it costs to get maternity benefit.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Most insurance companies now, they won't give you maternity insurance in the first year.
Yeah.
So, like, if you want health insurance, they deny, or maybe it's changed under Obamacare, but I know before, I don't write it anymore.
Right.
But I know they did. For 12 months, they wouldn't cover maternity.
Okay, but just to look at it this
But
way.
even after that, though, it was very expensive.
But your hospital bill and your physician's bill, those are the two things, and then you got a separate pediatrician's bill. All told, what, we're talking $15,000 at least?
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's a real expense. So if I'm a young unwed mother, I got to look at those expenses. Okay? Now, the mother's also responsible, too. I'm not putting it all on Dad.
Yeah.
But Dad's got his part to pay.
Yeah, a lot of women are going to midwives.
Oh, yeah,
doulas.
our kids were born...
My daughter does that. She's a doula, and she delivers babies.
Yeah, I still had the hospital bill. But there are people not doing the birth at home thing. And so, yeah, it's going around. But my point is, I think that's a valid thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So anyway.
Yeah, I think it'll help. I think it's good. We've got to get... but see, here's the only thing about it. It needs to go two ways. If you're going to hold men liable, then you've also got to give men some
rights.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You can't go one way or another.
Speaking of the legislature, let's throw this out. We talked a couple weeks ago about OCPA getting slapped with this emergency order protection by some guy who'd been a county prosecutor, Anthony Moore. Well, there's more to the story, I'm finding.
All right. This is out in West Texas, West Oklahoma.
Yeah, Weatherford, Custer County. So he, the gall of this prosecutor, a former prosecutor, he approaches the attorney for all of these think tank leadership guys who've never talked to his wife, but yet they're getting slapped with a protective order because one of the employees at the think tank sent a text that went to her phone. They might not even known it. But here's the thing. He tried to negotiate a consent decree before the court date to get them to admit to terms that would be ongoing. Well, they said, not just no, hell no. And so then the day before it was to come up in the docket, Anthony Moore drops the whole case. So this is how pathetic. He was trying before going to... This is bullying. This is lawsuit. This is barristry. And it saddens me that this guy is looking to get leadership in the House, particularly in the Judicial Committee of the Oklahoma House. I used to think a lot of this guy. Really disappointed. Really disappointed. So that's an update what's happening with OCPA. Because right now, those guys still can't teach Sunday school, still can't coach their kids' soccer teams. And that's an insurance thing. Even
though it's been dropped.
The judge, who has some severe... And we've got some issues here about judges I got to talk about today. The judge just took it off her docket, which meant it sits out there in limbo, unadjudicated. And the attorney went when they took it off the docket and said, hey, we need to get this expunged in the 90 days. We got to wait while it sits out there on a record. And we got to get it expunged. But we can't get expunged unless it's adjudicated.
And they can't appeal that to another judge above this one?
No, they can't. And they're really afraid to file grievance against the judge. That's our problem in Oklahoma. We're going to talk about with Timothy Henderson, the Oklahoma guy, because he's having an affair with the prosecutor's office. 3 women, I guess? 2 or 3 women. He was having an affair for years. And now, I'm sorry, I'm getting off. Let's segue onto this, because I've covered that. Timothy Henderson. And there's a couple of women that come forward in the prosecutor's office, but they didn't come forward right away. And they're presenting cases against all of these people, and he's ruling favorably, and now a guy who's been accused of drug trafficking, it looks like a solid case, he just got an appeal now to have that thrown out. And now they got to retry him again.
See, this is something that kills me. Well, not literally, but it gets me. So how can, because a guy's having an affair, which is a weird situation, so how does that affect this? You know what I mean? It's like apples and oranges.
Yeah. Eddie, you can't be a judge and your spouse be the prosecutor. They're going to look at conflict of interest on that.
No, I understand, but okay, but I thought the whole issue was they're trying to get him because he had an affair with some...
Two prosecutors.
Oh, with the okay, now I got it.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah,
David Prater, who's the DA, who's the boss of these prosecutors, it appears he knew about this and was milking it for convictions. And it was almost like he had the blackmail goods on this judge, because it took Governor Stitt calling for the OSBI to investigate this judge. And then Prater said, oh, yeah, this looks bad. We've got to deal with it. He knew all the time he was milking it. Now, here's what I want to say. I've got to find out which prosecutor handled the Daniel Holtzclaw case, because the judge was Timothy Henderson. And Holtzclaw, and Michelle Malkin may need to, she's vindicated here in yet another way.
Man, too bad Pat.
Yeah, I know.
Campbell's not a boy. If Pat Campbell were here, this would be,
this is a small world, Eddie.
Pat would love this.
Yeah.
Pat would be right up. Oh, he'd be all over. You'd be on his show.
I told you I had a bombshell for you.
Yeah, he would love this.
Yeah, but this is our problem, is the judicial corruption in this state is a real issue.
Yeah.
And the legislature is going to have to find remedies. But don't leave it to Anthony Moore to be in charge of that, because he's milking the system.
Yeah.
He's the one. I don't believe that that judge out there in Custer County gave these think tank leaders in Oklahoma County, because they don't vote for her. That's the problem with our system. Is, you get justice, well, fine, if you file in your home county against somebody from another county, you got a leg up, because that judge gets elected. So, anyway.
Oops, sorry.
So there's my report on Oklahoma politics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We've got some news for you today, don't we, people?
For those of you who don't know, Daniel Holtzclaw, a cop in Oklahoma City, on very, very questionable testimony, got 263 years in prison.
Yeah, for alleged rape of traffic stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But it was like 10 women, wasn't it? Wasn't it a number of?
That's what they claim.
Well, no, that's
all kinds of claims.
Right.
Real evidence was really shabby. Really shabby. Yeah. And Google Michelle Malkin, Daniel Holtzclaw. Yeah. You will get all kinds of, because Michelle worked her tail off for years on that.
Well, listen, I want to wrap up with a couple of things. One is a reminder, if you haven't yet, because we had some glitches last week on our video.
Yeah.
I have to apologize. It was all Dave's fault.
Yeah.
That's a Democrat.
He started the show saying, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. It's a Democrat tactic,
Yeah.
Listen, I sincerely
really sorry for what
I just sincerely want to apologize. It was all Dave's fault. No, seriously though. It's Michelle Obama 2024. It's a video documentary and a book by Joel Gilbert. You can look it up on YouTube. You can order it from Amazon, and it's pretty revealing. But Joel Gilbert says Michelle is going to run and replace, or attempt to replace, what's his name? Brandon, no. our current guy in the White House. I can't even say his name. But anyway, no, seriously, it's pretty interesting. I keep hitting this thing. It's a pretty revealing expose on, but she's following in the steps of her husband. Now, I can tell you she's not as popular as her husband.
Oh,
okay,
no.
she just doesn't have his charisma, his gift.
Yeah,
so she's kind of
likable.
off-putting. Yeah, she's kind of off-putting. There's kind of a scorbic quality to her. She's
a little bit snobbish.
Yeah, she just doesn't have it, and so in any event, but this is really good. It'd be good to see. It'll be interesting to see if she runs against the Donald.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Discover Plus has this unprecedented, I think, or unprecedented. It's a documentary, a special on the Trump family and Donald. Yeah, and they get you at the end. It says, "Can we talk about January 6th?" And it shows him, and he goes, "Yes." It's pretty cool. I haven't seen it. I don't even know when it's on, but it's on Discover Plus. But it's a whole thing with him, his kids, and they talk to them, which is pretty cool. So I haven't seen it yet. I'd like to see
get that kind of family cooperation.
Yeah,
they must be confident they're going to get a fair shake.
And they did have the funeral for Ivana.
Yeah. And
Donald and Melania and the whole family, everybody was there.
Yeah, that was breaking last weekend when we were doing our show. It was that she evidently, now we know, fell down the stairs.
And broke a rib, I guess.
Yeah.
The rib probably punctured her lung, I think. Is what,
that's essentially what Rand Paul almost died of when his neighbor attacked him in the backyard.
Yeah.
It was very serious.
I wonder whatever happened to his neighbor. I know they
he was convicted.
Did he go to jail though?
Prison, yeah. And but Rand, it punctured his lung, and it was a serious deal. In fact, I think he had to have some of his lung removed.
Oh,
yeah.
So it was pretty serious.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, listen. I want to finish tonight with a little bit of an interesting. I happen to watch. I've never watched this show, and this morning I woke up and just happened to flip around because I've been watching, as I said, the World Track and Field Championships, and it was on USA last night when I was watching
USA Network,
and they had Chicago PD. They have Chicago Fire PD, and there's another. But anyway, it was Chicago PD, and in this episode, it was about this black. It ended with this black hoodlum. He was kind of not a mafia boss, but underworld character. He was a big mobster, I guess. And the statement he made at the end, wow, it was really something because it reminded me of those of you that know some of black history. There was a man named W.E.B. Du Bois, and he was always at odds with Booker T. Washington. There's a big debate between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. And Washington believed in the black community rising from the bottom, and that you had to focus on
empowerment. Right?
Well, more on just educating the least of these, where Du Bois was more focused on the empowerment of, he called it the talented 10th. That's the cream of the crop.
Oh, now I get the
context. You gift you're talented and gifted.
Yeah.
And that is what the elite black people have bought into today. That's what your black intelligentsia, your Obamas, your Holders, all of your black intelligentsia and your bourgeoisie and everything. That's what they're really into. And basically the theory is that you take your cream of the crop, the real go-getters, you focus on them, you forget about the rest. That's why all of these people supported, what's her name? Who's the abortion lady who started the abortion?
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger. That's why they all supported her in birth control way back in the day, because they thought only the worthy were worth saving.
Yeah, the survival of the fittest mentality of Darwin was very popular.
All the way back to that.
The 1920s.
Eugenics. Basically, they were eugenicists.
Yeah.
And they believed that only the survival of the fittest. And so they believed in culling the race and in only investing in those worthy. I mean, honest, seriously. So anyway, I was listening to this. It was at the end of this show, and this black mobster guy makes this statement to the police at the end of why he was selling heroin in the black community. Yeah. And I was listening to this, and I said, wait a minute. This sounds like W.E.B. Du Bois talking. And kind of what your black leaders' mentality is. This is actually pretty much what the black leadership seems to think. So here it is.
Wow.
But the biggest difference between me and the person who is about to replace me is that we invest my profits in the community, in the people. So you'd rather hood for black folk, huh? No. No, Robin Hood stole from the rich, gave to the poor. Hypothetically speaking, I take from the weak and give to the strong so they can get even stronger. Let's be honest, brother. Some folks out there ain't got no chance. They're weak, uninspired. All they think about is getting high. So I sell them what they want, heroin. With that money, I invest in brothers and sisters who got game, who got smarts, who are willing to put in the time and the effort to make something of themselves. Legally. Like it or not, that's the only way black folks are gonna get out of these streets. It ain't pretty, it ain't fashionable to say out loud, but it's the truth. And I know none of y'all in blue want to believe this.
So when he was talking about y'all in blue, he's talking about the police that were listening in the other room. But
well, that goes right back to what Kevin Adams told us a couple months ago, that a cop on his Facebook, social media, called himself a waste management. It's that looking down, and there's a certain segment of society that's human waste.
Yeah, but see, this was a black person talking about his fellow people, and he was selling them heroin so that he could get to the weak that weren't ever going to do anything, and he was taking that money to reinvest in those that wanted to make something of themselves. So he saw himself basically as doing good for the black community because he wasn't going to waste his time with these people. He's just going to kill them off with the heroin and invest it into the brothers and sisters who are going to do something with their lives. And he actually saw himself kind of as a benevolent person in the community. So that's what the whole difference was. But it was kind of interesting because it really falls in line with this whole mentality of the talented 10th that W.E.B. Du Bois and so many of those people in that black intelligentsia of the early 1900s had. And it's come through. That's what basically you have going on right now. They all tend to live on Martha's Vineyard. Yeah. They all have money. They all hang out together. They party together. Yeah. And if you ever knew them or hung around with them privately, you can't believe the way they talk about their fellow black people. But they use their fellow black citizens as a tool to get what they want. Absolutely. To better themselves and their crew. Yeah. Which it really infuriates me because they act like they care so much about the black community, but they don't, because they think less of the black community, the lower end of the black community. They think less of them than the typical white American does. But they act like they do so they can get people to give to them to do what they want to do. So it's just a sad thing. But this guy, he articulated exactly what's going on. Yeah.
That was amazing. If you don't mind, I want to give an application to this, which is very wrong in Oklahoma public education funding. It's that right now, families, even on their groceries, are paying a state sales tax. And your income tax, your state income tax. 1 out of every $8 or $9 goes to the Board of Regents of Higher Ed. Of that, our legislative funding goes to that. And only those who are smart enough and prepared enough to get accepted into these universities. Yeah, so the poor family whose kids might not be as educated have to pay for that, but never get access to it. That's why when Ryan Walters was here and we were talking about it, I was so excited to hear he talked about. He says that money needs to follow that student, so that student can't get into OU. That they might be able to get into trade school, and maybe the Board of Regents hasn't funded that trade school all that much. But if you take that money away from the Board of Regents and give it directly to the kid on a needs-based sliding scale, then anybody can compete for that.
Yeah, there are several things wrong with the way that's handled. For example, I know a young lady.
I know I'm doing a stretch, but I want to apply it here where we're taking from these. I'm not going to. It has a racial component, I agree, but it also has an economic class component here.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. But what I'm saying is they need to look at that totally because, as I said, I have this friend, and the young lady, she graduated here in a school in this area with a 3.7 GPA. Has a family. Doesn't make a lot of money. And because her mother wasn't aware of the Oklahoma Promise, never signed her up for it in the 7th grade.
Right. Yeah.
She's not eligible.
Yep.
Well, why is she not eligible?
Exactly. For something her mother didn't do.
For something her mother didn't do.
Yeah.
So why do you have to sign up in the 7th grade for something that you may or may not need until, and you have people that sign up for it and their kids never use it.
Yeah, see, my youngest was in high school when they developed the program. Why isn't she?
Hello.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So someone needs to relook at that. And I'm glad you brought that up, and we brought it up. Maybe we should talk to somebody and see if they can't,
Yeah. And that's one of the things that OCPA, who I just talked about, works on more than anything is education reform. Yeah. But I bring the story of your own daughter. Now, I know this was Germany, but Germany was guilty. The elementary school teachers had godlike control over whether or not your daughter got to go to college.
Yeah, yeah.
Way back when she's a 10-year-old girl had her fate written for her, and you had to stumble upon it. And then cry foul, and then they backed off like cowards.
Right.
So
right. That's it. Yeah. And it's a different system, but bottom line is the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't judge you, if you don't go to, in fact, let this be a lesson to you. If you don't go to your parent-teacher meetings and you don't act like you care about your kids, I used to, when Union Middle School, high school, my son, my youngest, he finished grade school, and he was going to a middle school. This was in Tulsa Public. So he went to the middle school. And for some reason, I never got the memo or whatever they sent home that they were having a meeting with parents about kids going to AP class at the next year. So, for middle school. So, he comes home, first day of school, Dad, I was supposed to be in AP class, but they've got me in regular classes. So I called over there. I said, what's the deal? And the principal says, well, I'm sorry, they're all full. Can't put in. So my kid goes, he said, Dad, like the third day, we had 5 new kids come to school today, and they put them all in the AP class.
That's just it.
And they wouldn't put me in there.
Yeah.
And so I called the principal.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You lied to me.
Yeah.
You told me you didn't have room. You just put 5 kids in there from another
Yeah.
school." And so I said, "So tomorrow, I'm moving him over to Union, and I want you to have his books and everything ready at 9:30 in the morning."
Yeah.
"Oh, you can't do that." I said, "Yes, I can. I'll be there at 9:30. You have it ready."
Mm-hmm.
So I show up at 9:30. I had already gone to Union because he didn't realize we lived in the Union District.
Mm.
He was only over there because we had him for some reason going over to.
What school was that?
He was at Salt. Oh, the one right across the street here. It was
yeah, Bird and Salt. Was that?
Yeah,
Salt?
Bird. It used to be Bird.
Bird Middle School.
No,
it's called Memorial.
Memorial, yeah.
Yeah, junior high.
Yeah. So anyway, so I show up. I hand him my letter.
Yeah.
And the guy was just standing there like he was in shock.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to tell you, Tammy West, who's chairman of the Education Committee in the House, they were passing an open transfer law. Was it last year, I think? Yeah. Ryan Walters actually was part of Stitt's team that was pushing this. And she stood up and did a tell-all. She says, I was a school teacher, public school teacher, over in Canadian County. She said, us teachers got first pick of everything. They called it professional courtesy. And we got whatever for all our kids, whatever they wanted, we came first. Because the public schools took care of their own first. And so I'm saying, it wouldn't surprise me if some of those 5 that got moved in wouldn't because who their parents were.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's how it was in Germany.
Yeah.
If your parents were doctors, lawyers, or big business people, whatever.
It's a class system.
It's a class system, exactly. Yeah. It's it's part of the book thing again. It's not race. Yeah. It's class. Yeah. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a professional athlete. Oh yeah. Professional athletes or a celebrity. Yeah. Your dad's on ABC News or channel 2, 6, or 8. Yeah. Oh, hey, we got some of those kids, Yeah. Oh, yeah.
By the way, one of the reforms they did, and Ryan could tell you more about it, is they changed the law. They said, you have to take them on a first-come, first-served. You couldn't hold out a slot for a quarterback. See? It was like whoever signs up first for transfer.
Speaking of Ryan.
Yeah.
Don't we need to get him back in here?
We do. Well, yeah, I mean, he's got a runoff.
When is that coming up?
Yeah, that's August 23rd, so we're talking, about a month away.
We need to get a few people in here, don't we?
We do. I think we got some runoff races. I don't know if Mark Wayne TW, that's one. What other statewide races? I don't think we...
Are there any other runoffs?
Stitt's in, the AG...
Well, the Dunkerley deal...
Well, that's a county thing.
Yeah, it's a county, but still.
Yeah, and Sean Roberts wants in. He's taking on our labor commissioner, Leslie Osborne, who's got a lot of baggage. I mean, for her not to win that primary outright, there's something wrong. She's got baggage, and I got with his people, and they have recordings of her speeches where she trashes social conservatives like bad.
Really?
I mean, yeah. She's a liberal. And she has, there's rumors about her at the Capitol, how she moved to leadership. I'll let you go Google them yourself.
All right, I think we're rambling now.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we better.
Hey, one last thing. I've kind of been out of commission this week. What's going on with all these conference realignments? I haven't heard much.
I think they're kind of in limbo right now. Yeah. The Pac-12, Big 12 and Pac-12 were looking at it, but I think they both backed off. So, right?
Look at what? Looking at what?
Oh, merging the Pac-12 and Big 12 we're looking at and picking in. Yeah. So now, so that's not happening right now. So, but they are still talking about, the Big 12 possibly picking off a couple of the schools, Yeah. I mean, if they could get Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
To
Colorado.
Because the Big 12 right now is just a 12. We could actually get 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, Colorado.
I know they left. You almost don't want to let them.
And they haven't been very good. That's the other thing.
After they lost that coach, remember when they won football?
Yeah.
Good Christian man was their coach.
Yeah, I forget it. He started the
Promise Keepers.
Promise Keepers, yeah. But no, actually, who you won is Utah.
Yeah.
You won Utah, Washington,
Oregon,
and then of course you can get one more to get to 16.
Arizona, they're basketball.
Oh yeah, Arizona's the other.
So there would be 4 right there.
Yeah, there's 4.
Yeah, so the net result is right now, I think you'd agree, the Big 12 is in a better place than the Pac-12. Pac-12 is bleeding.
Right.
And they've got to do something. So
when they said that, they think is in trouble is the ACC.
Yeah.
Of the Big 4 right now.
They are in trouble. They're a basketball powerhouse still.
Yeah.
But that's it. And you can't just
so you want Arizona, that's true. You want Arizona because they're basketball.
Yes, yeah.
Arizona basketball. Washington, Oregon have good basketball as well. So
yeah, you know what that tells me? There's probably a lot of talk going on right now.
Oh, you know that nobody knows about. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that. So.
Okay, but the SEC is set. They got their teams. But they're not going to bring in Texas and Oklahoma till 2025.
Right.
Which means those guys are going to hang around in the Big 12 till then.
But that's going to be 18 teams, right?
Well, right now they're at 14.
I thought they were at 16.
Starting a year from now.
No, I thought the SEC is already at 16.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
And they're going to be 18.
Yeah.
And then
unless somebody's getting the boot.
And then the Big 10, they're at 16 too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I wonder if Vanderbilt wouldn't be facing an eviction notice. They're awful.
Vanderbilt and Stanford and some of those. I'll tell you what, the Big 10, I think who they really want, I think, is Notre Dame.
Oh, everybody.
And I don't know why Notre Dame doesn't join the Big 10, because they fit there more than they do in
Notre Dame got their TV contract before anyone.
Right.
And they are not sharing that with anyone.
And they wouldn't have to, I don't think, but they should. It's like Texas. See, that was the biggest thing. Texas had their own network.
Well, see, Notre Dame is in the ACC for every sport except football.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I think Notre Dame, though, it would make sense for them to join the Big 10 more than it does the ACC.
If the Big 10 would take them on that terms, but I don't see the Big 10 doing that for anybody.
Yeah.
So I think Anyway, the Big 10 basically got a boost with those 2 LA schools, so they're in better shape. But it's just going to be interesting. The Big 12. I think the Big 12 made the right move a year ago with the teams they picked.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'm sorry, just had to talk about that because I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
All right, we're going out.
All right. Yeah, we're going out. Let's see. Do we do our favorite or another one? We'll go out quietly. All right, everybody. We're going out with a whimper. Come in like a lion. Go out with a whimper. Oh, you want to hear that?
Pay them more. That's Joe Brandon.
Joe Brandon. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Stay cool. We'll stay cool this week. And we look forward to having a lot more news and discussion then. Take care. God bless.